Hello, welcome to my study about the rental decision maker for tenants in the San Francisco Bay Area. To sum it up, in this study, I will do a housing analysis in the Bay Area on the different prerequisites and make a decision maker where the user can select the conditions they care about most and see the best zip code area recommended for them to rent a new home. This decision maker is based on interactive visualizations made with D3 library, JavaScript, and this observable HQ platform. Let me first scroll down to my final conclusion. I draw from my visualizations. The most valuable actual insight I derived from my visualization is shown here, and the most important one is the last one, because this study was inspired by my personal need and for my condition. To sum it up, for a tenant like me who is going to rent a house in the Bay Area, and I prefer to live in the western or southern part of the San Francisco Bay Area, and I have a comparatively low budget because I will live alone, and I am not reliant on public transportation, and if possible, I want to stay a little bit away from it. And the best choice for renting a new home is zip code 94010. The reason this area is recommended is because this area has a relatively affordable rent price, which is close to the Bay Area average, and there's no public transportation. I mean, there's no BART station in this zip code, which implies better safety, and it has great median local household income, which is at top 15%. It implies it has a greater safety and maybe greater public services like public schools or something. And it has great housing conditions. The reason is its selling price is at top 3% among all zip code areas. So my study will focus on the cost effectiveness. The definition of cost effectiveness here is the ratio of the selling price to the rent price in a specific zip code area, because I have an idea that if you can use the same rent price to rent a house which is selling for more, then it is considered more cost effective for the tenant, right? Maybe for a house buyer, it means a lower cost effectiveness, but for the tenant, that's a contrary condition. That's a contrary situation. And I will show you how I derive the final conclusion step by step. I have five visualizations in total. The first three are three map distribution visualizations, and the fourth one is a pie chart, and the last one is a bar chart. Each of them has their own functionality. Um, so the workflow to use my decision maker here is, for example, the fourth one is a population ratio of two parts divided by given condition. This pie chart is in place for helping people who have no idea how the housing market in the San Francisco Bay Area look like. Um, for example, if you don't know what is a reasonable expectation of the average rent in a zip code area, then you can first choose average rent here as a category and try to modify the um, value here. For example, if I plan to rent a house in $2,000, then we can set it 2000, and you can see it shows less than 9% and greater than 90%. That means about 9% of the overall population in the Bay Area are living in areas which has a lower average rent than the value you just set. And so in this case, you can consider this 2000 budget is too low for the average rent. I'm not saying you need to pay an actual rent that is more than 2000, but um, this study is based on the average rent in a specific city area, which covers various range of house types. For example, some houses are 4B, 4B, then they will definitely raise the average rent in that area, and you can try to raise the average rent a little bit, and you can see if we set the average rent as 2,950, then you can see the population living area with a lesser or greater rent is almost half by half. So it means 2,950 is a reasonable expectation for average rent. So uh, after you have decided the reasonable average rent, you can scroll up here. We can get started by the first idiom, rent distribution map with customizable limitations. You can see for each map visualization, it has a filter on its uh, at the top and the map visualization at its bottom. You can set the variables in the filter to limit the visualization. For example, if you want to live in areas with at least one BART station in it, then you can set the minimum BART number here by 1, and you can see the areas with BART station are filtered out. And for example, for me, I don't want to live in areas with the BART stations, then we can set the minimum and maximum both zeros. Then the areas without stations are filtered out, and you can also change the minimum local average house income to browse the areas with the satisfied requirements. And let me set it lower a little bit, and you can see here, here is the overall rent distribution in the Bay Area. In my case, I prefer to live in the western and southern part because it seems the bar system is covering the northern and eastern part. And let's move on to the second one. I said I want to make the decision mostly based on cost effectiveness, aka selling price to rent ratio. So this one is the cost effectiveness distribution map with customizable limitations. Similarly, it has a filter and the map visualization, but the filter is a little bit more complicated with more variables in it. You can filter by rent price and by selling price here. And in my case, I will just set the selling price with the minimum number because I want to filter out the areas with missing data or unreasonable data because I guess in the Bay Area, the average rent should not be lower than maybe 500,000. So I will set it here by 500,000, and the rent range I will set it under 3,000 and 600 because my budget is limited. So I don't want to live in those areas in which the rent price is too high, and I want to live in the good neighborhoods, so I will set the minimum average household income as 80,000. And since I want to stay away from bus system, I will set bar number 0 here. And we can see here the depth of color stands for the cost effectiveness in these areas. The deeper it is, it means the higher cost effectiveness in these areas. And we can see these two areas are significantly deeper than the others. One is 94010, one is 94062. So basically, these areas are obviously recommended by this decision maker. And we can also use the third idiom, top recommendation distribution based on given condition. For example, if I want to see the top three recommended areas based on cost effectiveness, I can just set top as three. You can see the top three areas with the top three cost effectiveness are highlighted here. You can see the zip code by hovering your cursor on it. So we can see which is the top one. The top one is 94010. And I think in this study, I will take this one as the best recommended one. And after I decide which zip area I'm interested in most, then I can move on to idiom 5. This is a bar chart and the variable display here. And you can select the zip area you are interested in here. As we know, we are interested in 94010, and you can see the details about it. First, here's the variables, and the most important is rankings among all zip areas. Here is the bar chart based on the rankings from all aspects. First, it's the smaller the number is, it means it's ranked higher. For example, the rent economical ranking means its rent price is at about 55%. Then I think it's close to the Bay Area average, so it's acceptable. And the BART accessibility ranking, I said is a 0, so it has no BART accessibility, but it's fine for me. For people who are reliant on public transportation, you can set the filter maybe from 1 to 8 stations in an area. And the median household income ranking is the top 15%. That means the household income in this area are comparatively high compared to other zip code areas in the Bay Area. And the luxury ranking, aka selling price, is at the top 2%, top 2.8%. That means the selling price in this area is basically one of the highest in the Bay Area. So if you can rent a house of about $3 million with only $3,000 per month for the rent, then I guess this one should be considered cost effective from our common sense perspective, right? And you can see the cost effectiveness here is ranked almost the top percent among all zip code areas. So as we demonstrated before, the cost effectiveness is the highest compared to all other zip code areas. So after I used all these 5 visualizations, I can draw this conclusion from the 5 visualizations that 94010 is the best choice for my situation. And for different users, they can set the filter differently to make their own best decision. And that's pretty much of it. And thank you for watching.